Kiribati, Changing Atoll Culture by the Institute of Pacific Studies, presented by Kelsey Kimball. Introduction to Kiribati language. The Kiribati language has experienced many changes throughout the course of their history, which comes as a result from Western influences on their culture, which affected their ideas and behaviors. The writing systems. The writing systems were first created by Reverend Hiram Bingham, Jr., as well as later through the help of priests from the Sacred Hearts Mission. This was done even though they weren't fully educated in the language and weren't fluent in their spelling abilities. The Kiribati Language Board. There arose the need for a standardized vocabulary which would allow everyone to learn the same forms of words in order to decrease confusion. This included creating what is called a language board, which would regulate these added words. Background problems in dealing with linguistic change. The word Commonwealth in English is said as Kawamanurita, which Rita is similar to the English noun letter or word. Sometimes words aren't able to change very easily because they have been used very repetitively by the people, and it's difficult to continue to change the words. Therefore, it's easier to use the words they've been used to. Popular attitudes about language changes. The older Kiribati has a strong resentment towards the changes in the language, and young people tend to be very careless in the way they use the language. Young folk tend to be very careless in both grammatical structure and vocabulary. They tend to mix the Kiribati and English languages to get their ideas across. They are quick to use Kiribati pronunciation for an English word, instead of using the Kiribati word. National Parliament. Under the rules of the National Parliament, members have the right to choose to speak in English or Kiribati. Most Kiribati choose to speak in pure Kiribati, which is a language the older generation prefer and believe is more correct and appropriate to use. There are some people who will use English and Kiribati mixtures while they are drunk, but then increasingly when they are sober. Language preferences and public affairs. It is now up to the individual to decide which language they choose to speak most often, depending on the situation they are in. Nearly all of the government's most important documents have included both languages in their translation. This way there will be both languages so that there won't be misunderstandings. When dealing with official documents to the government, then English is used, but then when talking to the general public, it is more likely that the Kiribati form of the word would be used to not have confusion. This is because the people are used to hearing Kiribati and would be more ready to listen. Language usage in school and church. In elementary schools, called primary schools, Kiribati is mainly used because that is the language that they have been learning at home. English begins to be taught in the schools by grade 4, then later becoming the more dominant language used, so the students are gradually taught this new language. In some expensive and elective schools, there is a higher chance of students getting admitted to the schools if they are doing well in English. The government takes control of education. The government first took control of primary education systems from the Protestant Church in the 1950s and then the Catholic Church in the 1970s. There is a push to get students to focus on English and Western-oriented traditions and procedures, but then lately there has been a shift back to the mixture of the two languages, being English and Kiribati, as well as learning more about Kiribati culture. The Kiribati literature. There aren't a lot of resources that can be found on the Kiribati language because the literature is limited. The government articles aren't read very often in outer islands because of people's lack of interest in government, whereas the religious papers from the churches are read a lot because people are interested in the churches. Also, the religious papers are more likely to be written in the Kiribati language. The Ministry of Education promotes people writing books in English or their vernacular. There are also prizes given out to students split up into 3 categories: primary school students, secondary school students, and adults. Looking towards the future. There is many changing environments, and hopefully the Kiribati language and culture will not be lost in this process. The end. You have now learned a little more about Kiribati language and the importance of it. Have a good day. Thank you.